To most, Tasmania is a wonderful wilderness. Clean and green is how this island state promotes itself, and it's not hard to see why. Forests and mountains are often only stopped in their tracks by these Tasmanian roads, slicing their way through thousands of kilometres of pristine country. And for 5 days a year, they become the stage for one of the most demanding motorsport events on Earth. TARGA Tasmania has arrived, and that's where this story begins.
More than a pleasant drive around a beautiful island, I can tell you that.
I think that the countryside's beautiful, the roads are excellent, they're challenging.
And it's a really unique event, and not just within Australia but within the world.
You get to play on the best roads in the country.
The people of Tassie are good. Everybody's been fantastic and they make you feel very welcome.
I mean, where else in the world do you get a 5-day tarmac rally over some of the best roads that you could ever drive over, where every major road, every major mountain pass is closed for the purpose of competition? You know, that is extremely special.
You know, I reckon this is probably one of the best events I've ever done in my life.
Oh, it is tough. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
TARGA is an event like no other. Entries include cars from before World War II, machines which are literally only weeks old. It's a rally, but also a battle of attrition. Slip up on these roads and the consequences could be terminal. Each day there's different stages, some under 5 kilometres, others stretching on for almost 50. We start in the north at Launceston. Day 1 loops through the northwest coast and then back to Launceston. A gentle start, then a fierce finish with stages through Devonport and Sheffield. 8 TARGA stages in all to get the blood pumping. Day 2 makes its way through the state's northeast. Some of the favourite stages for competitors are on offer, namely the Sidling and St Mary's and Elephant Passes. The afternoon's course takes in the scenic east coast, then finishing in Hobart. Day 3 loops through the Huon Valley, south of Hobart. Another 8 stages, the start and finish in the outskirts of Hobart beneath Mount Wellington. This is where the rally really gets going. Day 4 we head back to the state's northwest for an overnight stop in Burnie. Arguably the toughest day. Concentration needs to be at a premium. The shorter stage, a 1.5k squirt around Hobart's Domain, and the longest, a huge 37-kilometre endurance test over Sathana. Day 5 heads from Burnie through Tassie's west coast, by far the longest of the event and the most gruelling. A few tight sections, but lots of fast, sweeping bends for cars to hit their speed limits. All in all, it's 1,900 kilometres and 43 frantic TARGA stages. To finish this event is a huge accomplishment in itself. To win, it takes skill, preparation and luck. The start of TARGA on day 0, as it's known, is a soft lead-in to the real event. It's the Temco Prologue at Georgetown.
And there's a 4-kilometre street circuit up there, which is very good fun, and what that does is actually determine your start position on the road. So whatever position you end up in today, you start reverse order. So the fastest cars actually run last and the slowest cars first.
The Prologue has no effect on overall times. To competitors, this Prologue stage is simply a chance to flex their muscles, do some last-minute preparations and realise the speed is only going to get quicker. After all 252 cars that completed the 4K dash, fastest overall was this man, an all-wheel drive Porsche 911 Turbo. Jim Richards is a legend in TARGA Tasmania. He's won 5 through all those heart-in-the-mouth stages. He's never made a mistake big enough to put him out. This year, TARGA organisers have slapped new rules on the field, rules which should slow Richards down. His Porsche is now heavier and he can't change a tyre unless he gives up 2 minutes.
I just felt in our particular car, because it's probably one of the heaviest cars in the race and probably one of the most powerful, and the fact that the engine and gearbox is in the back of it, it does wear the tyres probably harder than any other car out there. Last year there was a minute penalty, this year's a 2-minute penalty per tyre, so I just thought that maybe that was a little bit severe.
Whether it would be enough to stop the defending champion, only time would tell. Over the Prologue, Richards was still 6 seconds quicker than fellow Porsche driver Tony Quinn.
Well, I was really preserving tyres. I reckon I've got another 20 seconds in me going round there.
You could have beaten him, mate.
I could have beaten him. I was just preserving my tyres. No, look, hey, the man is a genius.
Greg Keane was 3rd fastest in the Porsche GT2. Peter O'Keefe in the 77 Tirana SLR 5000 was the fastest classic entrant over the Prologue, recording a time of 3 minutes 18.3 seconds. O'Keefe was 1.5 seconds quicker than Len Catlin in the 67 Ford Mustang Fastback. The 74 Porsche 911 of Rex Broadbent and Michael Godhere came in third. The Mustang of Brian and Brad Robertson not making a great start to the event, flooding the car on the start line. The morning of day one is designed as an easy one to clean. What that means is each TARGA stage is given a base time. Finish before that time and you don't accumulate any time penalty. For example, stage 2 is just north of Deloraine. It starts open and fast and finishes with a tight twisty section downhill. Even TARGA organisers admit there's no pressure to beat the clock here. You just have to finish.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Right.
This spectacular rollover saw Nick Ellis and Paula Pritchard, members of the Blue Gum clothing team, walk away with dented pride and a written-off Ford Escort. At least they were able to tell the tale.
I think the navigator gave me the call and I didn't hear it, and I said to her, give me that call again, and by the time we got it again it was too late. I thought, oh, we're pretty right because there was a paddock, but as you can see behind you, we hit them rocks and she was all over. But anyway, we better go home and build something else and come back for next year.
This was the first reminder of just how dangerous TARGA can be. Driving flat out on roads like this isn't for the faint-hearted. TARGA is a rally and navigators are an essential part of making it through in one piece. The wrong call from your co-driver and the last thing you see could be a tree.
It's hard to imagine, but actually when you're trying to concentrate driving fast, having any outside influence coming into your concentration level affects your driving. So getting used to that aspect of it has been pretty difficult. This is
Stephen Richards. He's one of Australia's best touring car drivers. Indeed, he's won Bathurst twice. But driving TARGA in the new Holden Monaro was a new affair for this young gun.
In a V8, if you're driving down the straight and one of the crew members gets on the radio to you, just as you're about to get on the brakes and go through the corner, you can drop a second a lap very easily, and it's no different here, except we're talking seconds per kilometre.
Having her first crack at navigating is three-time Olympian Kirsty Marshall.
I'm like such a control freak. I would have always thought, like, I don't even make a good backseat driver, you know, I'm terrible. And yet I'm really enjoying this. So I would have always thought I'd try and rip the driver out of the seat and take over. I'm happy.
After somersaulting her way to 2 world titles, the aerial skier was now in the co-driver position, with Victorian Dean Kustomidis driving a 92 Porsche 911.
I think that I'm getting into a real groove, and it's really great that, you know, having a driver that trusts you, so that you know if you're coming up to a corner and it's a crest and it's blind and you say, you know, it's a left 10, so it means go pretty hard out. He's actually really doing that. So I feel like there's good trust there and camaraderie, and I'm loving being a navigator.
After 11 years, TARGA has now become a Tasmanian tradition. Those that win, those that finish against the odds, and of course those that crash are all etched into what's fast becoming a TARGA legend. Big names have come, been bitten by the snake-like roads and never returned, but others live for the bends, the narrow bridges and the big trees which lay just over the curb. We've already mentioned Jim Richards. No one loves TARGA more than he and navigator Barry Oliver. They've competed every year except one, and even before the first stage, Jim is the man to beat. His icy approach to the event may leave one thinking he's not too phased about victory. But deep down, Richards is here to win.
We've already won it enough, but we'd like to win it again. But no, we're going into it like we do every year, is just to go and to have a good time and see where we are at the end of each day and be there at the end. I think the competition is genuinely very, very good, so that'll be where our problem will come from, is other guys going too fast.
Richards is a remarkable driver in a very fast car and seems to have a stranglehold on the modern competition. On day one of the event, the king of TARGA was once again in his element. Those doing the chasing have the added challenge of working out how you beat Jim Richards.
I suppose he can be beaten, but he is so good, and I've raced against him on the track and in Rally Tars and TARGA, and he's just so good. He's one of a kind.
After the lunch break, TARGA starts getting a little more difficult. Devonport stage illustrated just how important those navigators are. Base times are no longer. Devonport, Nook, then Sheffield are all stages where most competitors lose time. Nook is a 5.5k sprint over a woody ridge. It also caught some out. The Mazda MX-5 of Fraser Manton and John Loft finishing on its roof.
You guys all right?
Ray Vanderson's little clubman also in a spot of bother. While the first day was the last for some, the clubmen would continue, but others were coming to grips with what the day had dished out.
End of day one, and I just told you a second ago you were second. You sounded a bit surprised.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We just tried to have a good run and good clean run, and pretty excited about it, actually. Yeah.
Steve Glenney has been racing cars for just 2 years. This is his first TARGA, and although in a car which is more than 3 years old, had dropped only 27 seconds on all stages. It put him in an unexpected second place.
Steve, sorry?
Third was also an eye-opener. Peter Moore in Nissan GTR led Rick Bates in a Mazda RX-7 by just 1 second. The man in front wasn't such a surprise. Jim Richards driving perfectly all day. He dropped 3 seconds on Nook and 3 seconds on the Sheffield stage. The rest, he cleaned.
You know, naturally would have liked to have dropped nothing, but I mean, 6 seconds, that's what we dropped, that's what we dropped. But yeah, hopefully that'll be enough to keep us to the pointy end.
The team widely regarded as the one to push Richards and Oliver was Tony Quinn and Keith Wen, runners-up in 2001 in the modern competition. After day one, Quinn had dropped 49 seconds and was 43 seconds behind Richards back in 7th place.
Still deciding whether we change suspension yet again. We're not overly happy with the setup, so we'll look at spring rate tonight, I think. We're doing a bit of testing as we're going, but we're still going well. I'm not making excuses, it's just, you know, it's just the fact of life.
Driving the other big Monaro was Peter Brock. He was flying in the 8th place.
This was sort of like Monaro country once you get out here, and the car was beautiful. I mean, it's the first time on the roads with the car, but it was probably better than I expected, actually.
4 opens.
So I reckon that it's sort of the gap between the Solve and the Porsches and that isn't as much as people might imagine.
That's good. I think it's a good chance, yeah.
Tasmanians Jason and John White were considered to be the dark horse in the modern competition. Problems fell upon the pair in the transport leg after stage 2.
But looks like we've had a problem with the fuel pump. It lost power just on this transport stage after high plains, and it all leads back to low fuel or a low fuel pressure problem.
The service crew working madly replacing the relief valve on the fuel pump.
We've got probably another 20 minutes of late time available to us, so we'll hopefully get it back on the road before that runs out.
The crew won their race against the clock and kept their TARGA hopes alive. The pressure was not quite as fierce back in the field in this 1984 Pontiac Trans Am Firebird. Julie Shortland and Jamie Shepherd. The all-female crew are fashion models hailing from Australia's top end and are now TARGA junkies.
Well, it'd have to be the best event in the world, I think, and all the people that we get to meet and get to drive these cars really fast over some really challenging roads, lots of sideways action today. So, yeah, it's just all the fun, and so we couldn't miss out, so that's why we're here.
Living in a part of the country where there is nothing but straight roads, it forced the pair into some unorthodox training methods.
Because the NT is so straight, the road's up there, so we actually had videotapes and we sat on the couch up in Darwin and Jamie called it. We crashed the couch a few times, but it helped for the car once we got here.
The final stage of day one is a street sprint around the village of Longford, about 20 k's south of Launceston. It always provides plenty of highlights and lowlights. Paul Blackie becoming an instant crowd favourite. TARGA is a Tasmanian event. Tasmania is steeped in Australian history. It's only right that the older cars of this world compete on some of the country's oldest roads. To take on an event like TARGA in a car which is more than 60 years old is a crazy thought. Cars which have taken their owners countless hours to restore, put into an event of this magnitude alongside the newest cars in the world. You could be forgiven for thinking that their owners were crazy. For many, it's not a matter of what will break down, but when will it break down. But talk to a few of these competitors and it soon becomes obvious their machines are immaculate. The engines don't just run, they purr. These cars were the most prestigious of their day and they hold that prestige today. They are the historics and they add the other spices that this event needs in order to call itself a true racing motor show. Certainly not the fastest car on the course. Michael Hipkins and Mark Burns negotiate the twisty roads that TARGA throws out in their Vauxhall 3098, the oldest car in the field.
It was manufactured and came out of the factory on the 22nd of December 1925. In those days they even gave you a birth certificate with the car. It's not a fully restored car because it gets a lot of use and abuse. So people say, when are you going to restore it? But I'm not. It's not going to have the bodywork all tizzied up and made to look like better than brand new. It was burnt in a bushfire and rebuilt. The actual body is a Vauxhall body, but it is not the body that was originally on the chassis.
7, 6, oh, give it up, he's gone.
The hot favourite in this year's Shannon's historic competition was John Lawson. John won the event in 2000 and was third last year. However, John, his son Andrew and their attractive 1939 Grand Prix Alfa Romeo Mille Miglia Spider did not have the first day of the rally all their own way, dropping 13 seconds more than the 1939 Jaguar SS100 of Jeff Gowing and Tess McGrath. Lawson won the Devonport stage by 3 seconds, but was slower than Gowing's Jag by 17 seconds over the Quamby Brook stage. The next 52 kilometres of competition was neck and neck. Gowing and McGrath completed the rally stages just 12 seconds faster than Lawson's Spider.
The contest is fairly close. We started off 3 seconds ahead this morning, and I think we're only about 15 or 18 seconds ahead, unofficially after leg 2. So there's not a lot in it. It only takes a dirty spark plug, and and the position will change.
Their spectacular-looking Jaguar is revelling in the Targa roads.
It's been recreated from a lot of original parts. So it's not actually an original SS100, but it's certainly been recreated because the old SS100 were a wonderful car in their time, and we really loved it, and so we had one made.
John Lawson was not about to give it away to the Jag. By the end of day 4, the Lawson boys were back in front. The stages on offer saw the beautiful Spider in its element, 43 seconds quicker than the Big Cat. With a top speed of 125 miles per hour, Lawson was able to carve out a 20-second lead on the Sathana stage. Day 5 had the old Alpha on a mission, winning the Mount Black stage by 6 seconds and Rosebery by 10. Disaster then struck the Shannon's historic competition. Second place Jeff Gowing and Tess McGrath, competing on the Mount Arrowsmith stage, lost control of their Jaguar and crashed out of the rally. The pair were thrown from the car. Navigator Tess McGrath suffered chest injuries and was flown by helicopter to the Royal Hobart Hospital. It was a sad end to a great duel. Dennis Stone in his 37 Jaguar was in third place at the start of day 2, but was overrun by a hard-charging Vauxhall of Michael Hipkins over the winding mountain passes of Tassie's northeast. Hipkins had his eye on the podium. However, as he predicted, something did go wrong. He dropped 26 minutes on the Sathana stage due to magneto ignition problems. Stone was back into third and finished the rally in second place due to the crash. Targa veterans John Felder and Craig de Somerville, in 1930 Oakland 8, finished in third place. But it was the consistent John and Andrew Lawson who finished atop the Shannon's historic competition. The other competition in TARGA Tasmania makes up the bulk of the field. It's got Porsches and Ferraris and Datsun 1600s. It's the classic competition which enables drivers from all different walks of life to race their beloved cars, be it a Tirana or a Trans Am, on a level playing field. That means the base times for each stage are higher or lower depending on the modifications to the vehicle.
Okay folks, here we are at the Restored Casino car park. I've stumbled upon a very interesting piece of machinery. This is a HT Monaro, but it's got a crook front end on it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got a HK1, I'm sorry, Peter.
This is just not good enough, is it?
Well, that's all I could find.
Okay, now look, the car's got a good front end, good shocks.
Yes, very good.
Gearbox is pretty heavy duty. What's the Muncie gearbox?
No, it's got a Sagan-All.
Sagan-All gearbox, okay. You got the heavy duty rear end?
Yes, actually, I shouldn't say, but it's got a Ford rear end in it.
Oh, that's... Wash your mouth out. What are you doing?
I knew you'd say that.
What about the engine? You got the 350 in it?
Yeah, it's got a 350.
And
yes.
what, it's got a 4-bolt main, stuff like that?
Yes, it's very heavily built.
Good heads?
Yes.
Okay, now, navigation?
First time, Peter, so I'm really enjoying it.
Chris, do you have that nervous feeling when you sort of, going over a crest and you sort of say, fast over crest, and you think, here we are in the old Monaro, can she do it?
Well, that's absolutely right, and in fact I've got the foot on the floor much harder than what he has before he hits the brakes, so but look, it's performing well, very exciting car.
Any sort of hairy moments?
A few hairy moments, it's hanging in there, the back sort of tends to follow the front around a little bit, but only on a couple of occasions.
This has always been a problem with Monaros, I might add, that
it has, yes.
You could actually point them in all right, but you hoof it, and she didn't mind hanging the tail out, did it?
No, you got to drive it on power, not
That's
like
it.
you.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
Harry Firth used to tell me when I drove a Monaro, particularly around Bathurst, said you've got to give the car a flick coming into a corner, particularly the high-speed ones, to sort of set it up, because you couldn't use the brakes too hard, and you wanted to get an equal tyre wear front and rear.
Yes.
Tell me, do you sort of adopt that Harry Firth technique?
I do actually flick it into some corners. You have to, because it's such a big car to get around some of those narrow roads.
I've got this new Monaro, And I've got brakes you cannot believe on it. You can eat your heart out.
I suppose you run the air conditioning as well, do you?
We accidentally left it on at one stage. We had it on to clean the windshield, etc. And I got the end of the special stage. It was one of those fast mountain ones this morning.
Yes.
I said, James, we left the aircon on. So, oh well, not a bit of horsepower.
Our idea of air conditioning is to wind the window down.
480 air conditioning, yeah, windows down and 80 mile an hour.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had a gearbox. Do you have a close ratio?
No, it's ordinary old Saginaw. I'd like to have a close
Wide ratio,
gearbox.
1.36 third gear.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, which is means a big gap between third and top, but
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Very light body weight.
No, well, 1,750 kilograms or something. It's a fair old heavy.
That's with you on board?
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. We're James and I. We've got an aluminium motor, don't forget.
Yes.
And we're up to 1840.
Are you?
Yeah, 1840.
It's the CD player, probably.
It is. Yeah, we got all the Luxo items. You know, we got that. We have. But the only problem we got is so quiet. James insists on listening to Triple J.
Yeah.
Your brother doesn't do that.
No, he wanted me to play Triple J today for a while when we were cruising down the road.
We can barely pick up a station on that, Peter.
Okay, boys. Look, good luck.
Thank
Hope
you
you
very
enjoy
much.
yourself.
Yep.
And all I can say is we now entered a new century, new millennium, 2002. Times have changed. Perhaps the new Monaro might be you next time.
Well, yes, possibly. I might have to have a test drive, but this is the real Monaro. You know that. It's the original one.
And can we agree? Just go Monaro.
Yeah, go Monaro. It doesn't matter which era we're coming from.
The Woodward boys finished the rally in 46th place. The classic race itself is always quite close, but this year, like in the modern competition, it was a yellow Porsche that streeted ahead and was the quickest from the opening stage. Rex Broadbent and Michael Goathere in this very fast 1974 Porsche 911 RSR are not newcomers to Targa. The pair have led the rally the past 2 years. All they had to do was get home. Both times they failed.
Yeah, third time we've been here, and bit of bad luck in previous ones, but we're on the straight and narrow now, so hopefully we can keep going. Very much a team effort though, and got to keep it on the road.
Again, Rex Broadbent took it out hard, winning the Devonport and Sheffield stages by 8 and 12 seconds respectively. By the end of day one, they'd opened up a 34-second lead on the rest of the field. Bernie Stack in his Porsche held second place. He actually won the Nook stage and was just 7 seconds ahead of the Catlins in a 1967 Mustang.
That thing there, that Mustang, is basically a V8 supercar. It's 600 horsepower, 4-link rear end, sequential gearbox. It's just berserk.
By the time the rally reached Hobart, after 2 days and 17 stages, Broadbent had blown his opposition away. A lead of over 2 minutes had the Victorian in disbelief.
That's a nice buffer. If it rains tomorrow, it's a nice buffer to be able to back off.
But their bad luck nearly crept up on them on the Grass Tree Hill stage.
Well, the old bloke can drive pretty well, actually. Yeah, we just came over. It was a fast 5 left, and we just aquaplaned all 4 wheels back the pole into the back guard, just bounced off it. We're in the dirt, bit crossed up, just kept his foot into it, and next corner away we went, business as usual. It was very good, very good. It's a nice ride, actually.
We were going, we didn't know we had a lead, so tomorrow we do know we got a lead. We'll take it easy under that circumstance.
While the front runners were giving it heaps, quite a few of the 132 classic entrants were having trouble of their own.
We just clipped this white post coming in here, drifted over the road towards that bank. Then fortunately it stopped before hitting the bank, but the car was sideways and being so big it was blocking all the road. So I pulled the handbrake on and grabbed the triangles to run up the road, because it's a fairly dangerous position. And whilst I'm doing that, the car just gently rolled into the undergrowth here. I'm pretty sure it's okay if I can get it out.
Walk around the temporary pit stops each night and it's not hard to find scores of these special classic cars with stories to tell. One of them is this 1959 Porsche Spider worth 2.2 million Australian dollars. It was the first Porsche ever to win a 24-hour production race. Since then, it's competed all around the world. The man behind the wheel runs the Porsche Museum in Germany.
Yeah, this car was built 59, RS60 with 4-cylinder quad-cam engine, and this car won 1960 12-hour Sebring race with Hans Hermann, and that was the first victory in America in a World Championship race overall, and also in this year TARGA Florio overall, and so it's a real important car for our company.
And then there's this. It's got a pink engine and the driver reckons it's worth about $1,500. Doesn't he drive the rings off it? This is the Datsun 1800 Triple S of Queensland pair Graham Copeland and John Siddons, and it's always up there in the results.
You know, we're having a bucket load of fun. Our crew's asked us to put a camera inside. We don't want proof of what goes on inside the car. It's just not worth printing.
Graham Copeland was leading the charge of a host of competitors nipping at Broadbent's heels, ready to pounce should trouble again strike the 911. Peter O'Keefe in the big black Tirana was only 1 second behind Copeland in third place. Mike Batten also in the chase. Glenn Catlin had slipped 1 place to 4th.
Woo! Ah! Oh, that was a good safe going.
With the 74 Porsche 911 of Rex Broadbent and Michael Goathere way out in front, it was becoming obvious the battle in the classic competition was for the minor placings. David Cooper's XU1 was up to equal 4th, along with O'Keefe. There was trouble for the Copeland camp.
Eyes on Oyster Cove saw us today. We sat in the line for 23 seconds. Someone sold us a pretty average can of fuel.
At the end of day 3, Copeland and Siddons were still in second place despite their fuel problems. Rex Broadbent and Michael Goathere were faster by 1 minute and 5 seconds to now be a massive 3 minutes and 22 seconds ahead. More of the same for the yellow Porsche, but Copeland was losing touch, falling to 4th, with Mike Batten now up to 2nd and O'Keefe into 3rd. The 78 Cobra of Ian Roberts came unstuck on the Mole Creek stage, bending the front end of the big tank. But they refused to call it quits, digging it out and pressing on. Car 203, the Austin Healey of Brian and Linda Dermott, also crashing out. Going into the final day, Rex Broadbent was 4 minutes 48 seconds clear and should win, barring more bad luck. He could basically stop for a counter meal in each town he'd pass through and still win. The final day of TARGA is gruelling. It's more than 300 kilometres and would test all the leaders. Behind Broadbent, Batten and O'Keefe still had a fight on their hands for 2nd and 3rd. Copeland too, just 30 seconds back. While not contending for the lead, Matthew Reid in this Morris Cooper S still had his foot to the floor, running wide on a right-hander. Only a slight hiccup. In true mini fashion, they soldiered on. Len and Gail Catlin's charge had slowed on day 3. They had been sitting in 6th place, but an indiscretion on the Tarraleah stage saw them out of the event.
it appears that the diff's broken, which is a little bit disappointing from where we're standing, probably 20 k's from the finish, winning the class and all that sort of
And
thing.
going for gold.
Yeah, going for gold. That's the disappointment. So, but it happens, doesn't it? It does happen.
Broadbent didn't end up having any countermeals, but did get home in one piece, winning by almost an amazing 5 minutes from O'Keefe in his Tirana. And yes, that $1,500 rat did get home and did get a place. It was third after Batten's Volvo dropped time over the last stages.
Congratulations. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Boys, go the Dado. We took today really easy. In fact, my mate here wanted to stop off at Strawn Pub. It looked really good, he said. But it's been a great event. Mike's been fantastic. I think we'll be back next year. Mate, Johnny drove the last day. It's lucky it's got wheels on it. That's all I can say. He's a great driver. We share the drive, and you know that. We have a hoot. Targa's, mate, it's the best place to go and drive a car fast. We do this stuff at home, we get arrested.
Yeah. Legal street racing. It's
Yeah.
great.
But we can throw the stopwatches away, we'd still turn up.
Yeah, we pushed fairly hard the last couple of days in the dry. The dry wet obviously suits our car better. We struggled a bit in the wet in the first couple of days, but everything sort of worked out well. Really just had a real go the last 2 days coming home.
We took it easy the first couple of days to try and conserve tyres. We have a rule where we can only use 6 tyres, so with that we just took it easy and then sort of pushed pretty well in the last couple of days. You know, like yesterday was a pretty big day for us. Satana was a very quick section, and the next stage after that, I think Guns Plains. There's a lot of flat over crests, and the car was wheel standing at one stage and also flying through the air several times, landing quite heavily, but yeah, it all came together.
The Shannon's Touring Classic competition opened to vehicles built from 1947 to 1965. While the cars may qualify for entry in the Classic competition, the owners don't want to push them as hard, so they choose to compete in the stylish Touring Classic competition, which uses the same shortened course as the Historics. From day one, the Touring Classic race was a close one. Philip and Justin Nichols, a pair of farmers from the middle of Tasmania in their self-restored 1958 Austin Healey. Phil Nichols actually won this competition in 2001, and from the onset looked like being up the front again. Dan Bowden and Duncan McKellar from Queensland also looked quick in their 1956 Porsche 365A Carrera. It would be these two cars that would push each other to the edge over much of the event. After day one, Nichols led by just 1 second. The Touring Classics would turn out to be the closest of all competitions until day 4, when one of the most bizarre incidents this year cost Dan Bowden a chance at victory. On a transport leg between stages, Bowden crashed when one of the wheels fell off the back of his car.
The car went into this massive slide. We only just caught the slide, and then next thing you know, it just got catapulted up in the air. And that was the rear wheel getting punched out through the rear guard there.
At the time, he was leading after a great run through the Sathana stage. After digging his car from a ditch, putting the wheel back on, he was still in the rally, but had blown his chances. Nichols stayed on the road and in front, now easily putting the fastest times down on the remaining stages, and would finish in first place, making it back-to-back victories. Also proving quick was Simon Froud in a 1961 Jaguar E-Type, putting in some very quick times and slipping up to second, finishing 2 minutes and 46 seconds behind. Dan Bowden had done enough before his off to finish in third place.
A fantastic result. Can't believe it, 2 years in a row. We thought the Porsche would have it all over us, but he had a few problems, so here we are.
Back to the modern competition, and we go on board with Steve Glenney and Clayton Lang over the sidling stage on day 2, a favourite for most competitors. 13.97 kilometres of tight twisty sections and a massive straight over the top. The sidling requires skill in car placement and gear selection, a true test for drivers and navigators. Virtually overnight, he'd made himself a name in TARGA Tasmania. On day 2, Gleny consolidated his second place. With some stages wet and rainy, Gleny was driving no different.
It was slippery, but yeah, no, we had a ball. It's great fun.
Is this going to help you or hinder you?
I think we'll just continue on pushing on the way we're going. I can't see how it can hurt us. The four-wheel drive comes into its own in the wet, so yeah, it should be good.
Richards was still fastest on all stages except one. He's so experienced at the event, you almost forget he's in it when watching. His driving is smooth, yet very, very quick. With his Porsche not going through as much rubber as many may have thought, he was suddenly looking unbeatable. Or was he?
There are always little times when you, even with me, when you come around a corner and you have a little bit of a, you know, a breath grab, because you're just, you know, misjudged, and that can happen so easily.
One of those hard-in-the-mouth moments occurred on the Wellborough Pass stage. Steve Phillips' Honda Integra Type R coming unstuck on the same corner.
Bit hot in the corner, hit the culvert there, and managed to make it her way back over here, so she's hit pretty hard in the back end.
Brock's Monaro continued to surprise him and was moving its way up the top 10. Although he'd never admit it, Peter Brock got a sniff and found himself only 1 minute outside of third place. It wasn't only Holden who entered TARGA this year. As the event becomes more known around the world, other manufacturers are becoming involved. Paul Stokel was asked to drive this Volkswagen.
Power-wise, it's not exactly the most powerful car out there, but it's very nimble and it handles and brakes fantastically well. And I think down the hill we'll probably sort a few people out. To tell you the truth, I just love coming down and doing the event. To do it with a manufacturer of Volkswagen, for example, is a big opportunity for me, and I'm just looking forward to, I guess, finishing one and doing as well as we can.
The 2.6-litre V6 Beetle was used in the GTP Production Championship in 2001 and was brought out of retirement to take up the TARGA Challenge. However, the little V-dub suffered damage on day 4. Stokel attracted to this bus shelter. Vehicles such as Paul Stokel's VW, whose modifications fall out of the boundaries of the rules and regulations, can choose to compete in the demonstrator category of the event. Rally champs Neil Bates and Coral Taylor can't be kept out of TARGA and joined Stokell in this category. Although their Lexus IS 200 could not compete for an outright result, TARGA lures them back each year. Korean manufacturer Hyundai also entering the event for the first time, the company launching their V6 coupe, the Tiburon, for the first time. The car was finished just 3 weeks before the start of the event and ended up well inside the top 50.
Essentially, the cars all get driven on bitumen most of their lives, and if you want to prove a car's sporting pretensions on bitumen, this is the place to be.
This year also saw the introduction of all-wheel drive rally cars into the event. It was thought Mitsubishi's Evolution and Subaru's WRX STI could give the Porsches a run for their money. Bob and Matthew Hughes in their Evolution 6 had been running in the top 20, but the Sideling claimed their TARGA ambitions.
Probably put it down to overdriving, really. Probably a little bit too hot and into the long four, a little bit longer than what I thought it was, and we went for a wild ride over the side. I think there's a bit of damage underneath the car. It's not too much panel damage, you know, I mean, there's a few bumps and bruises on it, but ripped the back spoiler off and a little bit of front damage, ripped the wheel, broke a wheel. We'll just have to assess it when we pull it right out. It's coming out there now. But we were pretty lucky because there was big trees either side and we went between them, so would have been a lot more damage and maybe a bit of damage to us if we hit one of them, because we were probably honking along at a fair rate of knots.
Bruised and battered, they pulled their Pride and their Evo out of the scrub and back on the road, but missed the whole of day 2. They finished in 82nd. Greg Garwood in his Evo 6 also had a moment on the Sideling stage. Into day 3 of the event, young Tasmanian hopeful Jason White was leading the charge in his super quick Evo 7. He was hanging around the top 5 every day and was ready should anything happen to the big 4 ahead of him. Tight little roads, many of which were wet from overnight rain, began to take their toll. Here on Oyster Cove, the Evo 3 of Ernie Fuller ended up nose first into a bank.
He didn't come around so nicely.
We came up here and it's graded as a 6 right on our post notes, which tightens, which is probably pretty right, but just a bit of an off camber, you know, a bit of a fright, lock up of the brakes, and there's the result. Gave the spectators their money was worth, I suppose, but they're a bit disappointed, but there's always next year.
Then on the Signet stage, the WRX STI of Carl Farmer went straight ahead at a tricky right-hander. But more was to come. On the same corner, Stephen Richards, one of the country's hottest young steerers in V8 supercars, was still getting used to driving with a navigator.
Sorry, mate. Did you get that one? Yeah, you bet it.
Hey, Richo, up here, mate. Hey, we've got some hot dogs here. Hot dogs and beer. Hot dogs. $5.
I just come down, there's a right-hand corner up there, and as I come down I saw the Subaru, and Jenny's call was fine, but I just expected for some reason, because of the skid marks, that the road went around to the left, and just made a mistake.
The big crashes weren't the only drama of the day. Rick Bates, who'd been sitting in third, had trouble with his clutch. He had to begin each stage with the starter motor and then could not stop until the start of the next stage.
What's going on, Ricky? Can't stop. Yeah, we've got clutch problems.
It was a sign of things to come for his Mazda RX-7. At the end of day 3, Richards was sitting in front, cleaning 4 of the 8 stages and quicker than everyone else on the others. Steve Glenney had also increased the gap back to third place Tony Quinn, who had an inconsistent day and now trailed Gleny by 20 seconds. The boys in the Holden workshop had a long night ahead of them. After Stephen Richards' crash, Holden wanted to fix his car, so fix it they did with a Bathurst-style rebuild that took all night. Finishing with half an hour to spare, the Monaro was back in the rally. The modern competition was heading in the same direction as the classic competition, with Jim Richards now way out in front. That was until day 4. It all started with a quick stage around the Domain, which is virtually downtown Hobart. Hundreds turned out, and the competitors didn't let the crowd down. From Hobart, the field heads up to the Midland town of Ross, the historic village coming to a standstill to watch the TARGA cars strut their stuff.
1, go. 100 metres, turn right 4. Then 250 metres, turn right 4.
Just 2.8 kilometres, the Ross stage can be taken too lightly and cost you valuable time. With light rainfall, Ross was one of the more interesting stages of the day.
Left 6. Immediate right 2. Immediate right 2. Right 2, then keep right 2, immediate crest, 100 metres, flat crest, then left 4. Left 4 over railway lines. And on the right. Turn left 4, slippery surface. Culvert on exit. Then caution, right 2 on crest into left 2. Right 2 on crest into left 2. Then turn right 4. Then 200 metres, turn left 4. This is where they've resurfaced, there's gravel on the exit. Turn left 4, into right 1, into right 1, into turn left and cut. Turn left 4, don't cut. Then 200 metres, turn right 4, slippery. Turn right 4, slippery. Then 250, turn left 4, caution, left 2.5 after railway crossing. Left 2.5 after railway crossing. Jump. How far left? 2.5 after railway crossing. Right 2, then turn right 4. Turn right 4.
Japanese entrants Rohoi Hibino and Satori Akiyama getting too much air out of the jump at the railway crossing. Only 2 cars cleaned the Ross stage. One was Jim Richards, the other Tony Quinn. After their suspension problems, Tony Quinn and Keith Wen seemed to have the car perfectly set up and were now right on the pace. Stage 31, Sathana. For many competitors, it is this stage that brings them back year after year. 37.4 kilometres, arguably the best long section in tarmac rallying. This 93 Nissan Skyline had run too wide on the exit of a left-hander and heading straight for a tree. Driver Gary Burchett, suffering minor head injuries, treated at the scene by the FIV crew, then was taken to hospital and released later that day. Sathana would be where the story of TARGA 2002 unfolded. Jim Richards had hit a dip in the road while travelling at speed, damaging his wheels and costing him time.
We just hit a depression in the road that had been a part of the road had subsided and it had been resealed, but it had left a, you could say, a depression. And we hit this depression going pretty quick, and it just bent the front and rear wheel. So we had to try and straighten the wheel, because we didn't stop on the stage. We tried to straighten the wheel, but the valve broke in the wheel, so we obviously had to change the wheel. Nothing wrong with the tyre, but because we changed the wheel and it has another tyre on it, then we suffer a 2-minute penalty.
Suddenly, the young man from South Australia was only 17 seconds behind the 5-time TARGA champion. Steve Glenney was now a real chance. He'd been driving on the edge all week, but had so far kept his head. But it was the Sathana stage that would also claim him. A blowout, sending his Nissan GTR careering out of control, the rear end heading straight for a tree, putting him out of contention. Gleny would continue, but only at half speed.
You've heard about what's happened to Jim?
No.
Well, Jim's dropped 2 minutes because he had to change the wheel.
Oh.
So...
I haven't had that.
And Gleny crashed out as well.
What's the where am I?
Quinn was now 24 seconds from the lead, but he too had trouble on Sathana, slower by a second per kilometre than Richards. By day's end, Jim's lead was still only 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Traditionally, over the last 2 days, 2 of the top 5 will drop out, and we just sort of hanging in there and trying not to be one of them. We can't sort of, we worked out that we sort of can't really catch anyone on time, so we need just to keep a good pace and not let anyone past and see if the attrition works in our favour.
Jason White now up to 4th. He and his crew spent the night replacing the clutch, ready for a big run to the finish.
No, we'll just try and defend the position that we've got, and hopefully one of these Volkswagens will drop something on the way there and give us a podium.
Peter Fitzgerald's drive on Sathana was amazing, dropping only 36 seconds. He was now in 3rd, 43 seconds behind Quinn.
This afternoon we made some good ground in some of the best stages in the whole TARGA. I'll go all out in the morning, see how we're going. Yeah, we'll press on, and then at some stage during the day we'll decide whether we want to risk anything and continue on, but never say die.
Richard's other wheel rim was also damaged. If he had to take another wheel, it would put him back to 3rd place.
But it'll be good, it'll be a great finish.
Another 2 Tasmanians, Greg Garwood and Mark Perry, were having a red-hot go in their Mitsubishi Evo 6. The pair actually matched Richards on the Colebrook stage, only dropping 3 seconds. They were 9th at the start of the day, but had climbed into 5th with some fantastic driving.
You know, over those crests there, Rihanna, totally airborne and pushed really hard, and we've beaten into the whites today and the other Evo, so you know, we're really happy. Got 16 seconds out of them today, and by all accounts we've moved from 9th to 6th, and 2 Tasmanian crews in the top 10's, you know, good in this quality field.
Basically our plan was to put a bit of pressure on Saturday and Sunday. We like the rain, but obviously we've had none to speak of. But our plan was to take it easy on the first day, conserve our tyres, and just have a real hard charge like Saturday and Sunday.
South Rihanna, the last stage on day 4. South Australians Jeffrey Crow and Victor Moore coming unstuck.
Just came over that crest a little bit too quick, got a little bit light in the back, and unfortunately once the Porsche starts to go, all you can do is put the skids on and try and pull it up as quickly as you can. Learn a good lesson today.
John Potter in his 96 Porsche 911 Turbo also coming undone on South Rihanna.
Well, we started the stage reasonably well, and we just came through these last series of corners here and we just overcooked it a bit. We got into a bit of an understeer position and the backside of the car came around and whacked this bank pretty heavily, so that was the end of our TARGA.
After getting past clutch problems on day 3, Rick Bates in the RX-7 was now out of the event.
The exhaust is broken on it, and I'd say it's probably melted the wiring harness. There was a bit of smoke coming inside, and was right up under my feet. It was quite warm there, and smoke coming inside, and the thing just cut out. So it's melted the wiring harness somewhere, and so that'll be about it, I think.
One of the highlights of day 5 is the 99 Benz out of Queenstown. After smoke was billowing out of the Van Diemen clubman on day one, Ray Vandersea was back in the rally, putting down the fastest time by 2 seconds on the Queenstown stage.
That's very fast, people. Very, very fast. Oh my God.
Richards took it out fast on day 5 and was trying to regain that buffer. He was fastest on the first 4 stages of the morning. Peter Fitzgerald was chasing Quinn and was quicker than him on the opening stage. Tony Quinn now had a sniff. He was still trailing Richards but was close enough to keep the pressure on and was driving his Porsche Turbo on the edge. The Strawn stage was to be Quinn's last, finishing in the trees.
run out of black stuff and the green stuff isn't as grippy. It was quite a slow, you know, once we came off the road, it was quite a slow tumble into the trees. So, but scenic, very scenic.
Fitzgerald was now into second place. Jason White displayed the consistency to make it third place. Peter Brock, charging hard, was in 6th place, but only 17 seconds out of third. But some heart-in-the-mouth moments on Taralia nearly saw him out of the event. With the 50k Mount Arrowsmith stage downgraded following the accident of the historic Jaguar, Richards knew no one could catch him. He cruised in for his 6th TARGA Tasmania victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, give them a victory. They've done it again. 6 years now.
Well, this is probably one of the hardest ones we've had to win. We had a penalty midway through it, which we didn't probably think we were going to have, obviously, with a couple of bent wheels, but I think the fact that each time you win one, it does get harder. The competition gets stronger, the amount of cars in the event get more, so, you know, the quality of the opposition and the fact we had a few trials and tribulations has made it, you know, a well-earned victory.
99 modern winner Peter Fitzgerald in another Porsche finished in 2nd place. After nearly not making it into the rally, consistent driving in the early parts, then a charge at the end had him on the podium again. After early fuel pump problems and then a worn-out clutch, Jason White displayed the consistency to make it home in 3rd place. The Porsche champion is on top of the modern competition once again, leaving the contenders in his wake wondering if he can be beaten. Richards and navigator Barry Oliver are winners in just one of the 4 competitions. Those joining them on the dais truly have conquered the ultimate tarmac rally.